I've clamped this block up in a vise, and I've got to saw this chunk out so I can chop it out easier with a chisel. You can see here, this is the line we're supposed to follow, the angle that we want to follow for the throat. I've marked that on the side, and I've taken that across the front here, or this area, squared it up with the other one, and you can see the two abutment lines here. So you want to chop, well, keep sawing kerfs along here at this angle so that you can just chop that out with a chisel. But these two lines here, where the abutments are, these two you want to keep kind of straight and as close to the line as you can, because this is eventually where the wedge will go. So although it's not critical, it's nice to have a sort of straight abutment area here. So let's take a rip saw, and I'm going to go at it. I'll probably start in the middle first. This is a really aggressive saw. I think this is probably a bit too aggressive for this wood, but I'll see what I can do. I'm having really huge amount of trouble trying to get this started. I'll probably switch to a different saw for these two cuts so I can follow it a little easier. You don't want to go all the way down the line, because when you chop this out, you will get a bit of chipping. So I've gone maybe, you know, just a little bit off the line. So you basically just keep sawing, and eventually you'll get a bunch of kerfs, and you can chop it out with the chisel. So here I've got the block. It's almost finished in terms of chopping out of this throat area, and the important kind of surfaces you want to keep straight when you're chopping are these two here, this edge and this edge. These two pieces here are the abutments. This is where your wedge will kind of butt against. So you want to keep these nice and flat and straight, and these edges straight and clean. It's just for kind of cosmetics mainly, but try to keep them nice and clean. This area is the kind of the throat where the shavings will come out, and this area isn't critical at all. It's just for cosmetics. As long as you have it relatively flat and kind of straight, you know, it's just to get your fingers in there and kind of get the shavings out basically. So you don't need to concentrate too much on this. These two faces here, this one and this one, these will eventually be pared down at an angle so that it creates more clearance in here. So you want to pare these down at an angle here to create kind of a wedge shaped kind of carving in here, I guess. Both sides. So these faces at the moment don't have to be too clean or too straight or anything, so you can leave them. Same with these two, obviously these will be curved in kind of at an angle to kind of chop out. So it's relatively easy work because there's no critical surfaces, but it does take a lot of time because there's a lot of wood to remove, and it's pretty hard stuff, this. So the tools I used are, well, I have a chisel, just kind of chopping away, mainly paring. And once I got close to the line, I use a Japanese carving float, or file, what do you want to call this? This is the Iwasaki float file. This is the fine the very fine, the extra fine one, and it's the chemically polished version. Basically, you just kind of use this, and it does a really good job of flattening and truing up a surface, and it takes really nice shavings rather than dust. So it produces a really nice surface, clean, and it's also very fast working. So once you have these this surface done, the next thing you want to do is to kind of chop out this area here. This is called the wear, and this will provide clearance for your actual shavings to escape out in front of your blade. At the moment it's parallel to the blade. You can see like this, or parallel kind of. You want to give it some clearance so that your shavings can escape. If you give it too much clearance, when you, well, there's going to be no point in having this wear, because the point of this is so that when you take shavings from the sole of your plane to true it up, sorry, the mouth will kind of stay at a relatively sort of small setting. If you don't have this, then obviously it will just grow bigger and bigger. So you want to try to keep this as shallow as possible without having it kind of jam up your plane. So I've marked on the edge here, this is the one I showed you on the previous kind of video. This is the angle I've chosen, and I've kind of marked, just eyeballed, where this point here intersects with this top section. I measured it to be about 5-6 millimeters or so, so I just took an arbitrary measurement, scribed a line across there, and now it's ready for chopping out. First though, we want to saw to these lines here. In the previous marking video I showed you that these kind of two angled lines at the bottom of the abutment, these will provide kind of clearing for the chips as well, because obviously your blade is this wide. If you don't chop this out at an angle, then you're just going to get no clearance at the abutment, it's just going to jam. So you want to get some angle in here, relief from this bottom corner up to the corner that you just created when you chopped out, and we'll take a saw and saw those out.